Thank you very much, the chairman of our Defense Committee here in the Senate, Chingoy Estrada. And with that, we establish the chronological order as we understand it for the concise and orderly narration of facts. In a news article by the Philippine News Agency, Ambassador Romualdez confirmed that the U.S. made a request sometime in October of 2022 for the Philippines to temporarily house the Afghan special immigrant visa applicants. Ambassador Romualdez, you maintained that there was no secret to the U.S. proposal to allow the entry and temporary housing of the nationals from Afghanistan. May we know how the request was made? Was it merely a verbal order, or is there a written request that can be produced for the committee and the public to know?
Well, good afternoon, Madam Chair. Good afternoon to everyone. Yes, there was a formal request that we received at the embassy, and I hope that we will be able to produce that request. But it was also followed up with us through the State Department, whether this is possible for us to consider. And so we immediately sent this request to the Department of Foreign Affairs, and the Secretary and I spoke about it briefly, and he said that he was going to have this studied before any action could be taken. But that is what happened when we received this in October last year.
Yes, Secretary Manalo, please. The information, therefore, from Washington, D.C. Embassy is that the DFA actually was in receipt of a formal request. Is that the case?
Good afternoon, Honorable Chair.
Good afternoon, Secretary. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Yes, in October 22, as relayed by Ambassador Romualdez, we received in a concept note from the U.S. government, a request for the Philippines to allow Afghans formerly employed.
What sort of note, please, Secretary?
Concept note.
Concept note, okay. But it was written, in fact.
Yes, written. And the idea was to allow Afghans formerly employed by the U.S. government and their qualified dependents to temporarily stay in the Philippines to process their SIV applications with the U.S. Embassy in Manila. So we immediately launched informal consultation. We launched consultations with the relevant Philippine agencies in order to have to study the concept note and assess the request.
The ambassador says that thereafter the State Department also reiterated the request directly to the DFA. Is that correct?
Yes, Madam Chair. In fact, the Secretary of State directly raised this with me on a few occasions, verbally, and also in a letter, which I'd be happy to provide later. And in fact, President Biden also briefly raised the issue with President Marcos during the visit last May.
All right.
Madam Chair.
That's fine. Yes, and we recognize Senator Tolentino. You're encouraged to butt in at any point in time. Is this the usual procedure for requests? Of course, this is not usual business at all. But prior to the resolution filed by myself on June 8th, was there any press release on the part of the Philippine Embassy in Washington, D.C., the DFA, or any other government agency concerning the request of the United States and the course of action that the government plans to take, the Philippine government plans to take? Nag-anunsyo na kayo, nag-press release, o pinag-usapan na ba to in any public forum at all?
No, Madam Chair, because we were still consulting and trying to assess the implications of this proposal. So nothing was final in that sense, because we were still trying to collate all the views. And if I could just mention that after some consultations with the interagency, it was decided to raise it to a higher level in April. And this was when we went to the Anti-Terrorism Council. That was the one in April. And because we felt it should be now considered at a slightly higher level than the technical working level. Then I think the ATC, if I recall correctly, then recommended it be elevated to cabinet level for further consideration. So we tried to follow all the steps by first consulting all the agencies. And in fact, I could give later a list of the representatives, at least of the October meeting. And in fact, the purpose of that meeting was to discuss the concept note of the provided by the United States and to give preliminary observations. And then we proceeded to hold a few more interagency meetings on it to collate the observations of the various agencies. And when we reached the point in April, we had enough of these observations. We decided it's time now to raise it to the higher level or the ATC in April, I think.
Thank you. We appreciate your prudence and um, determination to raise it to as high a level as possible. Because until this moment, the terms of the proposal and request of the United States are still shrouded in mystery as far as the public as well as the Senate is concerned. Are you free to share with us some of the terms of said request, even only in the concept note? And we have here Senator Tolentino, I think, who's
To but in Madam Chair,
Also-
are we referring to the same IAC created by virtue of EO 163? Is this the same?
Oh, no. That's the old one of President Duterte.
So we have a new one
No, not yet.
because this was circa 2022.
Yes,
Nabago na ba yan?
wala pa. That's
So,
from
iba yun,
President
iba yun.
Duterte.
I had mentioned the, Mr. Senator.
late, I'm sorry, I'm
the,
late.
the ATC, the Anti-Terrorism
Okay.
Council.
Yes,
This
Senator Tolentino, what we're trying to determine is how the request was made from the United States. And apparently a concept note was provided by Ambassador Romualdez, forwarded to the DFA, reiterated thereafter by the State Department, and thereafter cascaded to a number of agencies. Not all of the agencies thereafter involved, but some of the primary cabinet level ones were already informed. However, in the interest of transparency, are you able to share with us how many Afghan nationals in total the U.S. intends to temporarily house in the Philippines? How many on a per month or a per batch basis would be housed in this country? I think Senator Jinggoy already mentioned our gaping housing gap locally, and the sudden urgency to house aliens and non-nationals suddenly taking primordial concern. Secretary Manalo, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Actually, we have not gone into that kind of detail in our informal consultations with the United States because they have come back now and again over the past few months to provide to discuss some of the issues involved. All I can say at this point, and I say that because there's really nothing agreed yet, but it seems that there is the possibility, if we were able to have any kind of arrangement, we would be having perhaps a pilot group, maybe a limited number. Now, we haven't even discussed that number yet. To first, we could first see how that pilot group would work, and then we would decide on how to proceed after that. But we have not gone beyond that issue, other than to say we might have a pilot group. But what I can say are the following, and these appear in the concept note and also after further informal talks with the United States. We understand from the U.S. that all Afghans who will be traveling with valid passports and will have already, before they were to arrive, if they were to arrive here, would already have undergone rigorous security vetting and background checks to verify that they have indeed previously worked for the U.S. government, because these will be Afghans who had worked before with the U.S. government. And we've also been informed that all costs would be shouldered by the United States government. Also, the United States would, with Philippine officials, try and select a suitable site where they could be located while they are being processed or vetted. It would, of course, be up to the Philippines. We also mentioned that to them, that if any arrangement, it would be up to the Philippines to impose mobility restrictions and internal movements within the Philippines. The U.S. also committed to us that in the event there are Afghans who come here for processing, that no one would be left behind in the Philippines. And that includes the even those who may be denied an SIV, whom we expect will be removed to another country outside the Philippines as soon as their maximum allowable period of stay expires. And therefore, any agreement we feel on this effect with the U.S. must contain provisions regarding the removal of those denied an SIV. There are also a number of points I could.
Yes, Secretary, we're in receipt of your
Okay.
briefer. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, that's correct. So the numbers have not been discussed, but there have been various reports. Perhaps Ambassador Romualdez, you could help us. There are reports that upwards of 1,000 eligible Afghan nationals per month would be sent, maybe 1,005 to 2,000 per batch, reaching a total of 30 to 50,000 Afghan nationals to arrive in the Philippines under this effort. Is that correct, Ambassador Romualdez?
Yes, Madam Chair, that is what they were telling us, that they would like to see if they can bring in at least 1,000 per batch. However, I just want to point out that it is really completely
Does
up
it
to
mean
us.
per batch, per month? And the second batch will not come in until the first batch of 1,000 has departed and been processed to go to the United States? Or will there be 30 to 50,000 total Afghans in the Philippines at one time?
It's completely up to us on how we want to proceed with this request. We can have it 1,000 each time, and they will be repatriated to the United States once they receive their SIVs, or they will bring in perhaps 1 or 2,000. It depends on the kind of the boarding or lodging that they will provide, which all of these they will be at their expense.
Yes, thank you. I would like to call on Senator Coco Pimentel, who has been raising his hand.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. May I ask, where are these potential Afghan refugees right now?
Ambassador
From the way-
Romualdez.
Yes, from the way I understand it, they are currently located either still in Afghanistan, perhaps some of the family members of this people who worked in the United States with the United States government. But the last conversation I had with the State Department is that some of them are in Pakistan at the moment.
So thank you for that point of information, Madam Chair.
Yes, Senator Tolentino, please.
Ambassador Valdez, a few questions. If you're willing to answer some. Aside from the United States, there are existing similar SIV programs right now. We have one in Canada, the special immigration measure. We have one in Germany, also applicable to the Afghans. The United Kingdom has the Afghan Relocations and Assistance Policy, or ARAP. Australia has a program known as the Afghan Locally Engaged Employees, or LEEE. Aside from the United States, were there requests coming from the other countries I mentioned a while ago?
Not to us, not that I know of.
But you are aware of the several programs I mentioned a while ago.
Yes, they pointed it out to us that there are programs of other countries similar to what they were requesting.
And if you're familiar with these programs, these are short-term, temporary programs that would entail the processing of Afghans displaced prior to their relocation, for instance, to Australia, United Kingdom, Germany, Canada. Am I correct?
Yes, that's correct, Senator.
So ang mangyayari po sa atin, temporary site controlled by the Philippines, as mentioned by Secretary Manalo, perhaps a site with proper security measures, and perhaps a site funded by the United States. And is the United Nations involved, Mr. Ambassador?
I'm not sure. Perhaps Secretary Manalo could I don't think the United Nations is involved in this.
Madam Chair, the reason why I'm mentioning this is that as we speak, there are 29 to 33 Filipinos still in Kabul right now, working for various NGOs. We have, correct me if I'm wrong, Secretary Manalo, we have accepted a similar number of Syrian refugees. And during the past decades, we accepted several East Timor refugees. And if hindi pa ako buhay, during the time of President Quezon, syempre po, libo-libo po yung Russian Jews. So the question of distance probably is inapplicable right now. And during the time of President Marcos, we have the South Vietnamese being stationed temporarily in Palawan. So, Mr. Ambassador, kung sakali pong pumunta rito yung Afghans, ang kinakatakutan po kasi ng marami, parang nagkaroon ng stereotyping na, suicide bombers ito. Ito po ba mga edukado? Ito po ba mga kababaihan? Ito po ba binubuo ng pamilya na naiwan? Hindi po ito yung mga nakasabit sa eroplano. Ito po yung naiwan doon dahil nagtrabaho sa mga embassies. Tama po ba?
Tama. Hindi, all of them, lahat sila nagtrabaho for the US government in one way or the other. At saka yung kanilang mga pamilya. Kaya it's anywhere between 50 to 60,000 that are still being processed for repatriation to the United
And you're
States.
perhaps aware, Mr. Ambassador, that we are a signatory to countless international agreements
Yes.
that should allow us to accept these Afghans
Yes.
in our soil. Tama po ba yun?
Yeah, that's correct, Senator.
And are you aware of this? I hope my pronunciation is right. I haven't been to France yet, Madam Chair. Refoulement would mean the return of a refugee to her former state against his will, where he will be more threatened by, in this case, the Taliban. So, pag yung nakarating po sa atin, nagdili-dali tayo, pinabalik, marami ho tayong violation. Tama po ba yun, Ambassador?
Yan, hindi ko sigurado yan. Pero ang alam ko lang, the United States government has assured us that whoever that we will allow to come into the Philippines for processing, they will take care of them completely. In other words, if they are for some reason denied the SIV that the processing will take place, they will be immediately sent to another or a third country.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. One last point, Madam Chair. Secretary Manalo, correct me if I'm wrong. My data was prepared several weeks ago. More than 90,000 Afghans have been resettled across the United States over the past 20 months. More than 11,000 SIVs were issued to Afghans between October 2021 and September 2022, according to official figures. Tama po ba yan?
I cannot confirm, Mr. Senator.
Yes. Kung sakaling yung tama yung binabanggit nyo na 50,000, 1,000, mapapasama tayo rito sa figures na to. Kung dito ipoprocess to. At the rate they're going, 11,000, halos isang taon, 90,000 na relocate. May posibilidad ba ho, Mr. Ambassador, na bumagal dahil nandito, natambak sa atin? Meron ba hong ganong posibilidad? O
Well,
nagustuhan na kayo sa tanong ko?
Hindi, nasa sa atin na yun, Senator, na kung ilan ang gusto natin. Pero ang request nila is anywhere between 1,000 to 1,500 per batch. Ipo-process nila, then they will go to the United States. Kung gusto natin less, pwede rin. Ang tinatanong na sa atin is exactly yung kanilang tinatanong o rini-request sa atin, what is it that we will be able to get back to them that we can accept? In other words, not all of these 30,000 or whatever it is they intend to process will come to the Philippines, and then they will be here, and they will wait for their processing. It will be by batches.
Definitely,
And it's completely up to us.
Mr. Ambassador, narami ho nakikinig ngayon. Definitely, the Philippines will not be the final destination of these refugees.
Yes, that is
Temporary
absolutely.
temporary lang po sila dito. Ang kinakatakutan ng marami ay baka malahukan ng mga terrorist. Kaya na-elevate na sa Anti-Terrorism Council, etc., etc. Naniniwala po kayo, Mr. Ambassador, na ito pong pinag-uusapan natin ay pangamba na may posibilidad na hindi naman dapat mangyari kasi na-vet na po yun bago dalhin dito.
Correct. Yan ang tama, Senator. Kaya nga, lahat ng ating mga security agencies ay tinatanong ng DFA dahil they also will have to give their comments kung anong tingin nila. Pero yan ang sabi sa atin ng mga Amerikano na they will be vetted first, they will be double-checked before they come to the Philippines, and then again through processing.
Madam Chair, if I may be allowed to express my personal sentiment, I don't see anything wrong here. Sa tingin ko po, kung talagang na-vet ito, nagkaroon lang ng konting hype, stereotyping, bordering on discrimination. Na siguro naman, mabubuting tao yung iba. Yung mga FW po natin, nasa iba't ibang bansa, tinatanggap naman po yun. Kasasabi ko lang, merong 33 na Filipinos pa sa Kabul. So siguro kung masasala po ito, wala tayong gastos, nasa secured na lugar, nasa isang isla. I think, Madam Chair, we have abided and complied fully with all our international humanitarian commitments, including the possible erasure of what they term as, quote-unquote, human rights records of our country. Malinis na ho tayo dito. We're getting here with clean hands. Tinulungan po natin yung mga tao na wala namang mga kasalanan. Details will be laid down. But yun lang po yung sentiments ko, Madam Chair. But
Yes,
ang mali lang po dito siguro, yung proseso, shrouded in non-transparency manner, not revealed to the country, not full explained, siguro DFA ang dapat managot yan, pero yung mga Afghans, wala po silang kasalanan. Salamat po, Madam Chair.
Maraming